12 players who forced rule changes in the NBA. Throughout basketball's rich history, there have always been standout players. They are the ones always making the highlight reel and are the subjects of books and documentaries when their careers end. Some of these players are so exceptional that they literally change the game. Let's take a look at 12 of these players who forced rule changes in the NBA.
Kobe!
With an incredible play. And I believe Darren Williams tried to dunk it.
12th three-pointer of the game. The brilliant shooting of Steph.
Number 12, George Mikan. George Mikan is the original big man. Standing at 6'10", 245 pounds, he defined what it meant to be a dominant player in the paint throughout the 1940s and 50s. The ever-popular Mikan drill is still practiced by big men to this day. As is the trend you'll notice in this video, whenever a player is excessively dominant, the league is forced to alter rules in order to slow them down. In what is known as the Mikan rule, the NBA widened the free throw lane from 6 to 12 feet, hoping to reduce the havoc wreaked on opposing teams by this colossal center. With Mikan also came the advent of the goaltending rule. Before Mikan was swatting shots from above the rim, it was thought to be physically impossible. But when he arrived on the scene, they had to make it illegal. Number 11, Wilt Chamberlain. During the twilight of George Mikan's career, another big man was emerging who would go on to force a bunch of rule changes. Wilt Chamberlain was perhaps the most overwhelming player we'll ever see in any sport. In the 61-62 season, he averaged 50 points per game. Can you imagine seeing that today? So of course the league had to do something, anything, to take the edge off this one-man show. First of all, Wilt shot free throws like a psychopath. He would stand behind the line, bounce the ball off the backboard, take flight from the free throw line, and punctuate the whole affair with a dunk. That's just not fair. So the rules went into effect that a player can't cross the line until the ball hits the rim, and the ball must hit the rim. No alley-oops off the backboard to yourselves anymore. Wilt also forced the NBA to enforce offensive shot interference because he had a tendency to guide his teammates' shots into the hoop. Number 10, Darryl Dawkins breakaway backboards. Darryl Dawkins forced a slightly different kind of rule change in the early 80s when the NBA had to start implementing breakaway rims to hold up to the increasingly violent slam dunks from Dawkins and company. The backboard shattering problem was used to justify the banning of the dunk in high school and college basketball for 9 years. Oddly enough, this ban took effect following Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, then named Louis Alcindor's freshman year at UCLA. His coach, John Wooden, claimed that the rule was enacted specifically to stop Alcindor. Number 9, Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was another player with a devastating move that the NBA had to take away from him. He would post up his defenders and then back them down for an extended period of time, even as long as 20 seconds, before making a move to the basket. So beginning in 1999, players could no longer dribble for more than 5 seconds with his back or side to the basket. Number 8, Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller popularized a technique of drawing shooting fouls that became popular enough to require a change in officiating. Typically from behind the three-point line, he would kick his legs into the defender to draw contact, resulting in a foul. This earned the fantastic shooter many three-point plays, but when it started to become a commonplace technique, the NBA began calling this move an offensive foul. Number 7. Michael Jordan. With the Jordan dynasty throughout the 1990s came rule changes that favored offensive players and specifically the guards. Jordan's career saw the elimination of hand checking, which was used by defenders to keep track of his airness. Some say the league was concerned for their fan base as the MJ years came to a close, and so in an effort to give rise to another star, they began heavily favoring the offense. Number 6. Shaq. Right in the middle of the Shaq-Kobe three-peat in the early 2000s, the NBA unstated rules seemingly aimed directly at stopping Shaq. Among these rules were the defensive 3-second violation, making it illegal for players to hang out in the paint while not guarding an opponent. Looks like they wanted to get Shaq out of the way so smaller guys could score. The second rule attempted to slow down Shaq's offense by legalizing the zone defense. This would allow teams to more easily swarm the Big Diesel because no one could handle him one-on-one. While Shaq wasn't too happy about these new rules, I'm sure he's honored to be in the big man game changer club with Mikan and Chamberlain. And the rule-changing efforts proved futile anyway, as Shaq went on to win a couple more championships with Kobe and another one with Dwayne Wade in Miami. Number 5. Hack-a-Shaq. Here's a rule that changed in favor of Shaq and Dennis Rodman, Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, and all the other players who can't hit a free throw. These players with ugly touch from the foul line caused teams to intentionally foul them so they would miss their free throws and they could quickly regain possession of the ball. This was especially effective in controlling the clock during the final minutes of a game. The result was a great slowdown of play and star centers sitting the bench during what should be the most exciting part of the game. So the Hack-a-Shaq rule gives teams one shot plus possession of the ball in the last 2 minutes of a game to deter the use of this boring but effective strategy. Number 4. Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson pushed the limits of the game both on and off the court. And when the NBA started to see other players adopting his fashion sense, they instituted a dress code requiring players to wear business casual attire to games and a sport coat on the bench. Number 3. LeBron James. The NCAA has all sorts of stipulations to control the process of college players exploring their professional options. But when they instituted the rule that an agent working with a college player had to have a bachelor's degree, LeBron had had enough. A few King James tweets later, the NCAA amended the policy, basically nullifying what LeBron named the Rich Paul rule, after his own agent who did not graduate from college. Number 2. Derrick Rose. Thanks to Derrick Rose's spectacular performance during his first contract with the Chicago Bulls, the 2011 NBA collective bargaining agreement allowed players who were finishing their rookie contract to make 30% of their team's salary cap. The catch is that for a player to make this kind of money, they have to have been a 2-time All-Star team starter, a 2-time NBA team selection, or have won an MVP award. This allows teams to shower their star players in cash if they've crushed it in their first few years. Number 1. Rasheed Wallace. Even if they didn't come right out and say it, the NBA had Rasheed Wallace in sight when they began suspending players who reached 16 technicals in a single season. And for good reason. In the 99-2000 season, Rasheed earned a league-leading 38 tees. The next year, he was teed up 41 times. Now, for every 2 technicals after 16, earn an additional suspension and increasingly large fines. Now that we've seen the game-altering figures of the past and what the NBA had to do to keep up, it's your turn. In the comments, what players are redefining the game as we know it, and what should the league do about it? That's all for today. Until next time, keep hustling.